So connective tissue. So in bahasa we call it as tissue penghubung, right? So bila kata penghubung, tissue penghubung, so purposely you know the function is to connect one tissue to another tissue. That is the main idea, okay? All right, so in connective tissue, again, the same thing, we have to learn about the different type of connective tissue, their function, and also location, okay? Okay, so these are the general characteristic for connective tissue. So there are so many type of connective tissue. So generally, connective tissue connect other tissue together. So despite connect, another function of connective tissue is to support the cells of the other tissue, support, right? So not only connect and support, so connective tissue also helps in providing protective sheet, right? Protective sheet around all organs, especially that involve in storage, transport, and also repair. So it helps to protect or to store, all right, to store the apa nama, something that involve the connective tissue. Okay, next is all connective tissue have these features. They must have fibers. They must have ground substances. Okay, they must have cells, and some have extracellular fluid. So these are features of connective tissue. So the fibers that can be found in connective tissue, some might have collagen fiber, right? Some connective tissue might have elastic fiber, right? And ground substances, what is ground substance? Ground substances is very important for the component of matrix. Matrix of the connective tissue. So in the matrix of connective tissue, dia mesti ada ground substance. Which apa sifat ground substance? The ground substance is transparent material that is meant for development of the cell in the connective tissue, exchange of material, for example, exchange of nutrient or gas, right, within the connective tissue. Okay, and connective tissue also must have cells. Different connective tissue have different cells, right? And some have extracellular fluid. Okay, so remember, connective tissue mesti ada all these things lah. Fiber, ground substances, cells, and some might having extracellular fluid. Okay. Okay, so this is table of connective tissue, right? So connective tissue divided into two: connective tissue proper and specialized connective tissue. So we are going to focus on this part, right? But just to add your information, so I put some notes over here related to connective tissue proper. So what is connective tissue proper? So connective tissue proper is divided into two: loose connective tissue proper and dense connective tissue proper. So the example of loose connective tissue proper are, what I call it, it is a connective tissue that found beneath of the epithelium, right? And it can be found in surrounding of the blood vessel, which ensures that the blood vessel will be in place. Okay, that is loose connective tissue. And as for dense connective tissue, we have tendon and also ligament. All right, so but we are not going to focus on the details of loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, but we are going to focus on specialized connective tissue. So specialized connective tissue are divided into three: cartilage, bone, and also blood. So we are going to see the difference in terms of the cell, the fiber, or maybe the component on the ground substances. Okay. Okay, so we start with first cartilage. Okay, so cartilage atau kita panggil sebagai tulang rawan. Alright, so characteristic of cartilage, it has no blood vessel. Where can we find cartilage? We can find in our nose. Okay, ni tulang rawan hidung kita, our ears, which make our ears is elastic, and also between the vertebral bone. Okay, which allow us to bend, all right, and so on. So these are the location where you can find the cartilage. Okay, right. The function of cartilage basically is to provide movement, flexibility, all right, and also support. Okay, right. So cartilage is a specialized type of connective tissue which provides support and aiding movement, especially at the joints, dekat bahagian penghubung antara tulang-tulang. Okay, right. So as we stated there or mentioned just now that connective tissue mesti ada cell, ground substances, and la la la. Now we are going to see what are the cells and what are the ground substances component of cartilage. Okay, so cartilage consists of cell. Apa nama sel dia? The cartilage cell is known as chondrocyte. All right, so the chondrocyte is found within the small cavity, or the chondrocyte is enclosed by a small cavity that known as lacunae. Okay, that is for the cell. Okay, next is the matrix. What are the component of the matrix? The matrix, what is matrix, madam? Matrix tu kalau nak faham macam cytoplasm of the cartilage, but we cannot call it as cytoplasm, so we call it as matrix. Okay, so the matrix contain fibers where they have collagen fiber and also elastic fiber. So the fiber provide firmness and resilience to the cartilage, right? And the matrix also contain not only fibers, but it do also have the ground substances. What are the component of the ground substance for the cartilage? Okay, which can be found in the matrix. So the ground substance contain chondroitin sulfate, right? So it contains chondroitin sulfate, which derive from polysaccharide. Okay, so that is why chondroitin sulfate, in other words, chondroitin sulfate can be found in the matrix. Okay, so chondroitin sulfate is very important for cartilage. Sebab tu, if we look at advertisement related to joint pain and whatnot, biasanya dia akan the product must have chondroitin sulfate, right? So because chondroitin sulfate nourish the cartilage. Okay, right. Okay, so the chondrocyte secrete collagen fiber and also chondroitin sulfate. So you can see the cell itself, the cell to help to secrete the collagen fiber and also chondroitin sulfate. Okay. All right. So in terms of location, you can see listed over there those location of cartilage. But I just put this picture down here to let you know actually cartilage divided into 3 types. Okay. So we have 3 different types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, the blue color. Okay. Fibrocartilage, the red color, where it can found in our intervertebral disc. All right. Hyaline cartilage can be found in the joint of bones, shoulder, wrist, elbow. Okay. All right. And then elastic cartilage can be found here, ears. Right. So that is specific type of cartilage. And of course, this different type of cartilage has different distribution of fibers and numbers of cells dia. Chondrocyte banyak ke sikit ke, it's different. But we are not going to explore more on that particular each particular type of cartilage. So cukup sekadar you tahu where can you find the cartilage and what are their function. Okay. All right. So this is microscopic structure of cartilage, what you can find in the matrix of cartilage. So in the matrix, you will find cell, right, which is chondrocyte. So you can see here is the chondrocyte surrounded with lacunae. Okay, so this is laku ni. Right, and then here is the component of the ground substance, which one of it contains chondroitin sulfate. Okay, all right. So this is what you can see under microscope lah on the structure of cartilage. Right. So despite chondroitin sulfate in the ground substance, you might also having fibers. Cuma not really clear lah in this picture. Okay. Okay, so finish with cartilage. Okay, next we go to bone. Please ask if you have question, okay? Right. Next is bone. Okay, bone is another specialized connective tissue, but it is a mineralized connective tissue, right? Why? Because it is added with mineral that make it hardened. Okay, menyebabkan tulang tu jadi keras. So without these additional ataupun added minerals, so our bone will be basically sifat dia sama macam cartilage. Okay, right. So bone is a mineralized connective tissue and it has cell, the bone forming cell known as osteoblast. All right, bone forming cell is known as osteoblast, and this osteoblast secrete matrix containing collagen fiber. So maknanya dalam matrix tu ada collagen fiber. Okay, and it is deposited by osteoblast. Okay, so the mineral contain calcium, magnesium, phosphate ion that combine together and harden within the matrix into mineral that we call as hydroxyapatite. All right, so these are what we call as a mineralized connective tissue because they have mineral that we call as hydroxyapatite. So hydroxyapatite itu apa benda? Gabungan calcium, magnesium, phosphate, okay, that combine and harden within the matrix. Okay, the mineral give the bone hardness and the collagen fiber give the bone strength. Okay, right. So you can see this is the structure of okay, I'm going to show you another picture. Okay. All right. So there are two types of bone. Okay, compact bone and spongy bone. So compact bone ialah bahagian tulang yang padat. Alright, so compact bone and spongy bone ialah bahagian tulang yang berongga. Spongy bukannya maksudnya dia sponge. You can squeeze it. No, it is it has more spaces between the structure. Okay. Okay, so what you can see here is this area is the area of compact bone. Okay, and in between here, nampak tak this area contain a lot of spaces. Dia ada banyak rongga. So that area is the spongy bone. Okay, all right. So what are the structure that you can find in the bone structure? What is the bone unit? Bone unit we call as osteon. Satu unit or basic unit of bone we call as osteon. Okay, so you can see small part over here, bulat kecil ni, these are all osteon. If we zoom in, okay, this is one osteon. Okay, so what you can find within one osteon? You can find lamella. Okay, I will show you the detail kejap lagi, detail picture. But now I just want you to hear the names. Okay, lamella. Number 2, canaliculi. All right. Next is Havasian Canal, right? And Boxmans Canal. Okay, right. So those are the structure. Okay, now let's go and explore. Okay, so this is the bigger view of osteon. Okay, mana osteon tu? Okay, nampak tak ni? This is one osteon. This is another osteon, and this is part of another osteon. Right? So each osteon must have all those structure that listed tadi. Lamella, canaliculi, Haversian canal, okay, osteocyte and whatnot. Okay, so now focus kat sini. Right, so you can see here, each osteon have a central canal, alright, ada macam terusan dekat tengah-tengah that we call as Haversian canal. Okay, and surrounding the Haversian canal are lamella. Mana lamella, madam? Nampak tak? Kalau you tengok secara rapi, you can see, nampak tak? It forms sort of like a ring over here. Okay, so this is one lamella, this is another lamella, alright? So that is what we call as lamella. Alright, okay, next. You have is osteocyte, the pinkish color in the here, right, is osteocyte. One cell found in bone, despite osteoblast. So ada lagi sel yang lain namanya osteocyte. So next, what you have is fine projection here, yang macam rambut-rambut ni, alright, that connect one osteocyte in lacunae to another. So that is canaliculi. Okay, right? Can you follow so far?
Boleh.
Okay. Okay, next. Okay, so we go here to the picture of lamella. You can see one ring to one lamella, another lamella, another lamella. Okay, right. Each what we call it? Each osteon have a vertical what we call it? Vertical canal that we call as Haversian canal, right? And each of the Haversian canal from one osteon to another osteon can connect together or is connected by another transverse canal or horizontal canal that we call as Boxmans Canal. Okay? So yang mana canal yang menegak tu Haversian, yang connecting transversely is Boxmans Canal. Okay, right. And this is periosteum. Periosteum is the covering of bone. Macam kulit tulang lah, kan? Macam kulit tulang yang kalau anjing dia duduk kekoh-kekoh tu, tu periosteum. Okay, right. And you can see over here, this is one example of a large bone in our body. Okay, contohnya kalau kita ambil contoh, kita punya ni lah, apa nama? Femur lah paling senang kan, tulang kaki kita ke ataupun humerus ke, large bone in our body. So they have area of the compact bone and also the spongy bone. So this area is compact bone, yang tengah-tengah ni ataupun dekat belah dalam sini spongy bone. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the detail. Okay, so bone consists of repeating unit that we call as Haversian system or osteon. Each osteon have Haversian canal. All right, the Haversian canal contain nerves, arteries, vein, and limb vessel. Okay, and then the canal is surrounded by Haversian lamella. So this is Haversian canal. Keliling dia tu adalah Haversian lamella, or we call as lamella. Okay, and Haversian lamella will form the bone matrix. Okay, all right. So this is matrix tu lah. Yeah, this is matrix. That later will harden. So dia jadi keras. Okay. Okay, next. Okay. Bone tissue contain bone cell known as osteocyte, and the osteocyte is surrounded in the space called as lacunae. So mana dia? So ni nampak ni. Right? So this is osteocyte in lacunae. Okay, macam tu. Tapi buruk lah media lukis ni. Macam itulah lebih kurang. Okay. So osteocyte in lacunae. So radiating from the lacunae, okay, so this is lacunae, and radiating from the lacunae are tiny canals, or we call as fine channel, that known as canaliculi. Okay, all right. So mana dia? Mana dia? This one. Okay, canaliculi. So fine canal, right, extend from the lacunae. So we call as canaliculi. Okay, so canaliculi fill with extracellular fluid and contain osteocyte processes. Okay, process mean projections. Macam ni ya. This one. This is what I call as osteocyte processes. It's projection from the osteocytes. Okay, right. Okay, so canaliculi link lacunae to one another and the Haversian canal. So you can see that the canaliculi is actually sort of like connecting one lacunae to another lacunae and going towards the Haversian canal. Okay, so canaliculi provide routes for nutrients and respiratory gases that to reach osteocyte and ways to leave the osteocyte. Okay, so that is how it functions. All right, so this is the osteocyte processes. Okay, so this is the canaliculi. And this is osteocyte in lacunae. Okay, in large view or large magnification. Okay, Haversian canal linked to one another by a transverse canal known as Boxmans Canal. So a apostrophe S must be there. Okay, Boxmans Canal. And the bone is covered by a dense connective tissue known as periosteum. Okay. All right. So that is for the compact bone. Okay. So next we go to the structure of spongy bone. Right. So spongy bone can be found in large bone, and usually it is surrounded by the compact bone. So it consists of trabeculae. So what is trabeculae? Trabeculae is the spaces. Rongga-rongga yang kita nampak tu we call as trabeculae. Okay. Trabeculae surround the bone marrow cavity. It contains osteocyte, right? In the trabeculae tu, it contains osteocyte, and it also may contain osteoblasts. So remember, osteocyte and osteoblast is two different cells, okay? Right? And each of them have different function. Okay, so trabeculae contain osteoblasts on the surface, and it also might contain osteocyte in the lacunae. Okay, so you can see here, right? So this is the spongy bone. So spongy bone is located between the compact bone, right? And it formed in a form of trabeculae, where the trabeculae contain bone marrow and also blood vessels, right? So on the surface, you might be having osteoblasts on the surface of the trabeculae. Dia ada osteoblasts. The function of osteoblast is to form new bone, right? Where the osteocyte in lacunae, right, within the matrix, okay, ataupun the lamella, right, regulate metabolism of the bone, regeneration of the bone, and repairing of the bone. Kalau tulang kita patah ke apa ke, biasanya akan bekerja lebih ialah osteocyte. Okay, so osteocyte regulate bone metabolism, regeneration, and also remodeling. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is what you have in the trabeculae of the spongy bone. So it contains bone marrow and also blood vessels. Okay. So kalau orang yang makan sup giabok tu, so sup giabok tu adalah untuk sup giabok tu contain this one lah, the bone marrow, which is red yellow bone marrow, which is adipose tissue lemak, blood vessel, itulah, ya. Alright, so finish with bone. Okay. So next, moving on with blood. So we finish with blood first, and then we break for 5 minutes. Okay, right? Blood. Okay, so blood. The blood is containing or in the form of plasma, blood plasma, right? So blood plasma is a liquid matrix. So the matrix is in the form of liquid, right? And it consists of water, salt, and also dissolved proteins. Okay, so the liquid matrix also enable rapid transportation of the blood cell, right? Nutrient and also waste. And suspended in the plasma are cells like erythrocyte, leukocyte, and also platelet. Okay, so sama dia ada matrix, and the matrix is liquid containing water, salt, and dissolved proteins, and it also have cell. Okay, right. So you can see this is our blood component. 50% contain plasma, right? 1% contain platelet and white blood cell, and the remaining 44% contain red blood cells. Okay. Okay, plasma. Okay, so plasma is a pale yellow liquid. Okay, pale yellow liquid containing 90% of water and 10% of solutes, include metabolites like glucose, vitamins, amino acid. Okay, it do also have waste, nitrogen compound, and also carbon dioxide. Okay, so it contains also hormones and ions like bicarbonate, okay, chloride, and also sodium, right? And it also have several proteins like albumin, globulins, and also fibrinogen. Okay, so albumin helps to move small molecule within the blood. Okay, globulins helps in liver function. Okay, blood clotting, and also to fight infection. Where fibrinogen helps in, or apa nama, to stop bleeding lah, helps in blood clotting lah, to stop excessive bleeding. Okay, but if fibrinogen is removed, the plasma will be called as serum. Okay, right. And what is the function of plasma? Plasma function for act as medium for exchange of substances. Okay, so that is plasma. Okay, next we go to cell. All right, cells in the blood. Okay, first erythrocyte. Okay, so erythrocyte also known as red blood cell. So please, picture must be here. Erythrocyte bentuk macam mana, leukocyte bentuk macam mana, platelet bentuk macam mana. So it must be here before you go to the characteristic. Okay, so this is the shape of erythrocyte. All right, so detailed characteristic of erythrocyte. So in every 1 millimeter cube of blood, so we will have 5 million of red blood cell with size of 7 to 8 micrometer. All right, so red blood cell do not have nucleus to maximize the transportation of oxygen by hemoglobin. Okay, so the cell is filled with hemoglobin, and the function is to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it has biconcave shape ataupun kita panggil dwi cekung. Okay, dwi cekung, alright. And then the plasma membrane is very thin and flexible, so it is good for diffusion of gases. Okay, and the lifespan of red blood cell is 120 days, so lebih kurang 4 bulan. That's why we are encouraged to donate our blood every 4 to 6 months. Okay, this is where our blood will be manufactured, okay, ataupun replenished. Okay. And the new red blood cell is manufactured in the red bone marrow. Okay, next we go to white blood cell. Okay, the leukocyte. Okay, so in terms of size, leukocyte is larger compared to erythrocyte, And in terms of number, it is quite less less, which is 700 per every 1 millimeter cube of blood. And then it has nucleus. Leukocyte have nucleus and have short lifespan compared to erythrocyte. And the function of leukocyte is to defend our body, okay, against infection and whatnot. And there are two main group of leukocyte, which are the granulocyte and agranulocyte. Granulocyte and agranulocyte. Okay. Okay. What does it mean by granulocyte? Granulocyte came from the word granule. Okay, right? So granulocyte white blood cell have granular cytoplasm. So meaning cytoplasm dia ada granule bulat macam tu. Right? So and then it has loop nucleus. Okay, for agranulocyte, A means none. Okay, so agranulocyte do not have granular cytoplasm. But do they have nucleus? Ada. Nucleus masih ada. Okay. Okay, right. Next, granulocyte. Wait, terkejut aku. Ya, apa dia?
Dia punya nucleus tu lobe nucleus ke nucleus biasa kalau granulocyte?
Lobe. Granulocyte. Granulocyte nucleus biasa.
Okay.
Cuma bentuk dia lah berbeza. Nanti kita discuss kejap lagi. Okay, right. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so granulocyte. So granulocyte have lobe nucleus. Lobe means dia what is in Malay lobe tu. Nah, macam tu lah. Tak tahu ayat dia bahasa Melayu apa. Lobe. Takkan nak berkelopak
Bercuping ke medium?
Apa dia?
Bercuping ke?
Bercuping. I'm not sure apa bahasa Melayu dia. Tapi dia macam ginilah. Dia macam ni. Dia macam tu lah. Lobe nucleus. Okay. Alright. Nanti I'll show you. I'm sorry. Bahasa Melayu dia tu dia tak tahu apa. Okay. Next. Granulocyte. So for granulocyte, despite having granular cytoplasm, this is one features that you can differentiate between granulocyte and agranulocyte. So granulocyte also is able to undergo amoeboid movement. So this is what I call as amoeboid movement. Amoeboid movement means they can use the false feet like amoeba. They can move like amoeba. So due to that, they are able to squeeze between the cell and go to the target area. Okay, so that is amoeboid movement. So there are three types of leukocyte: neutrophil, okay, eosinophil, and also basophil. And as for granulocyte, they have nucleus, but the nucleus is not lobe. Dia tak ada macam dia tak ada tu, alright? But they have oval or bean-shaped nucleus. Okay, bentuk nucleus tu oval or bean shape, and it's divided into two types, monocyte and also lymphocyte. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. Right. So now we are going to discuss detail about the three types of granulocyte white blood cell. So you can see all of the cytoplasm have granules. Ni nampak ni. Nampak bintik tu, maknanya that is granulocyte. Okay. Number two is look at the nucleus. So this is what we call as lobe nucleus. 1 lobe, 2 lobe, 3 lobes, 4 lobe, right? So this is lobe nucleus. Okay, right. So the first one is neutrophil. So ingat gambar ni very, very, very important. So meaning to say, if you look at the picture, you know, oh, that is basophil. You know, oh, that is neutrophil. That is very important. Okay, right. So neutrophil have 3 to 5 lobes, right? And 70% of white blood cell is in the form of neutrophil. And the function of neutrophil is to engulf and digest pathogen by phagocytosis. All right. As for eosinophil, right. So now look at eosinophil and basophil. How to differentiate between these two? How to differentiate?
Number of lobes.
Lobes nucleus.
Sama, ada dua. Ni, satu,
This size.
dua,
Dalam
satu,
granul.
dua.
Macam jantung.
Right. So how to differentiate is under microscope we cannot differentiate. But if let's say you are given a picture without color, you cannot differentiate. Right. Okay. So under microscope we can differentiate the eosinophil and basophil because by looking at the granule, stain of the granule. If the granule stain red, right, you can see over here, if the granule stain red, so that is eosinophil. It appears red because of the dye, eosin dye. Okay, and for basophil, it will stain blue, right, due to methylene blue. Right, so cara nak ingat macam mana? You ingat basophil, B, blue. So the granule will stain blue. Okay, right. So next, let's go to the distribution and also function. So eosinophil is around 1.5% of leukocyte, and the size is quite bigger compared to neutrophil. And the function of eosinophil, it involved in anti-inflammatory chemical. It involved as anti-inflammatory chemical. Okay, untuk anti keradangan. Lebih kurang macam itulah hayatnya. Okay, right. And number two, quite important function of eosinophil is to eliminate parasite, right? And also involved in chronic inflammatory disease. So kalau ada keradangan yang agak kronik, so itu adalah kerja-kerja eosinophil. Okay, right. Where for basophil, basophil produce heparin and histamine. So heparin and histamine, as it release, it will cause inflammatory response. So bila keluar je histamine, keluar je heparin, mata berair, bersin-bersin, batuk-batuk, gatal-gatal, itu semua sebab the release of histamine and heparin. So eosinophil pula kerja dia is anti-inflammatory, right? So dia akan kurangkan keradangan. Macam itulah, right? But the most important function of eosinophil, which is quite special for eosinophil, is to eliminate parasite. Okay. All right. So you can see the first picture up here, right? The neutrophil is chasing bacteria, right? And it will engulf it via phagocytosis. Okay. Nampak dia endocytosis dulu, and then they digest via phagocytosis. And down here, this picture showing you an eosinophil. Nampak tak dia warna merah ni? Right. So you can watch cells at work. Okay, anime. So that what you call it? Dia cerita pasal how our cell work in our body, right? In animation lah, anime, right? So this is eosinophil that chasing parasite. So eosinophil memang tugas dia specifically to remove or to kill parasite. Okay, and here is siapa nama tu? Basophil that release heparin and also histamine, which leads to inflammatory responses. Okay. Right. Okay. Next is granulocyte. Okay. So finish with granulocyte. So make sure you can able to differentiate the three of them. Okay. Next is granulocyte. So granulocyte has non-granular cytoplasm, right? With oval or bean-shaped nucleus. So granulocyte have two types, monocyte and also lymphocyte. So look at here, this is monocyte. So the nucleus here is having a bean-shaped or kidney-shaped nucleus, where lymphocyte here has a big, almost round or oval nucleus. So that is how to differentiate monocyte and lymphocyte. Okay, so monocyte, right, size is quite big, 9 to 12 micrometer, right? And the function is to engulf bacteria. Okay, whereby for lymphocyte, monocyte ni one of the derivative lah from monocyte, dia boleh juga nanti develop into macrophage. So macrophage derive also from monocyte. Okay, right. As for lymphocyte, lymphocyte have a very big rounded nucleus with little cytoplasm, and the function is to produce antibody and involved in cellular immune response. Okay, so lymphocyte will be involved in production of antibody and other cells in our immune response. Okay, all right. So you can see here this queen, okay, is the monocyte or the macrophage that will kill all the pathogens. Okay, right? And down here you can see the picture of monocyte or macrophage over here. Macrophage that takes in the bacteria, right, and engulf it by phagocytosis, right? And here the picture on the right one, you can see this is a pathogen, example virus. So it will be detected by the lymphocyte. So this is lymphocyte. So lymphocyte then will act in such a way that it will produce antibody or any cellular defense mechanism to kill the pathogen. Okay. All right. And last one, platelets. Okay. So platelet is irregular shape of membrane-bound cell fragments. So you can see it is in the form of small fragments that form from megakaryocyte, okay, which is our large bone marrow cells. So megakaryocyte is found in our bone marrow. So it is one of the our bone marrow cell lah, macam ibu lah, okay, the mother of mother cell within the bone marrow. Okay, so the lifespan is around 7 to 8 days, and the function of platelet is to assist in blood clotting. Okay. Okay, finish with connective tissue, specialized connective tissue. Any question? Tak ada, right? So hopefully everyone okay. So then we are going to move on with muscle tissue, nervous tissue, and inshallah we go to straight away go to plant tissue, okay, with the remaining time that we have. Okay, so before that, take your 5 minutes break and we will continue with muscle tissue. Okay, take 5. So we will start at 4:55. Okay, so next let's continue with muscle tissue. Okay, so for muscle tissue, there are 3 different types of muscle tissue, right? So you have to know the characteristic of each and function and also location. Okay. So the three different type of muscle tissue are the skeletal muscle, right? The smooth muscle and also the cardiac muscle. So again and again, please memorize the picture, right? Make sure you are able to identify which one is which, all right? So in terms of structure, skeletal muscle is tubular shape. So you can see the shape is tubular, right? Okay, for smooth muscle, it is spindle shape like this, bentuk tirus, all right? And for cardiac muscle, it is elongated and branch, dan juga bercabang, elongated branch cell. Okay, right. Next is in terms of presence of striation. Okay, kita nampak macam ada dark bands, light bands, dark bands, light bands, macam nampak jalur-jalur tu. So that is striation. So skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle shows striation, right? Or it is striated, whereby no striation in smooth muscle. Okay, and then next is in terms of nucleus. For muscle, skeletal muscle is multinucleated. You can see within one skeletal muscle, right? Cell, you can see that they have multiple nucleus, right? And uninucleated for both smooth muscle and also cardiac muscle, right? And then next is in terms of presence of interconnected discs. So interconnected disc is some structure yang macam nampak zigzag macam tu. So that is interconnected disc. So interconnected disc only found in cardiac muscle, but not in smooth muscle and skeletal muscle, right? Okay, next in terms of function, okay, so both smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, right, involved in involuntary control. So involuntary control means contraction that is not able to be regulate ourselves voluntarily. Tak boleh. Okay. As for skeletal muscle, it involves involuntary control. And then in terms of location, right, skeletal muscle attach the tendon to attach to tendons of bones, right? And smooth muscle can be found in the wall of digestive tract, for example, in esophagus, right? And cardiac muscle can be found in the wall of heart. Okay, so that is the summary of three different three different muscle tissue. All right, so again, another picture showing you, this is the skeletal muscle, and you can see the striation, right? And the shape of cell is tubular, okay, with multiple nucleus. All right, so for smooth muscle, okay, you can see that the smooth muscle is spindle in shape, okay, no striation, and it involved in involuntary control. And next one is cardiac muscle. So you can see this is what we call as the interconnected disc. Okay, siapa tahu what is the function of interconnected disc of cardiac muscle? Or can you check what is the function of interconnected disc? Okay, did you got it? What is the function of interconnected disc?
To hold cell together.
To what, Alisa?
Hold the cell together.
Okay, hold the cell together. Okay, lain? Selain daripada tu? Okay, like mentioned by siapa tadi ni? Okay, Nurin Alia, to relay signal. Alright, good. Lagi, what else? Ada lagi yang jumpa ayat lain?
Gap junction that allow electrical pulse to travel from one cell to one cell.
Yes, so that is another definition of relay signal. So relay signal here is given as relay impulse, right? From one cardiac cell to another cardiac cell. So maksudnya information can be sent to the whole cell of the wall of heart so that the wall of heart can contract simultaneously, okay? Right, so that is the function of interconnected disc. And you can see it is branch, right? So it is elongated cell and branch, okay? Okay, so finish with muscle tissue. Okay, now we go to nervous tissue. Okay, so the first nervous tissue that we are going to discuss is neuron, right? So this is the structure of neuron. Okay, you can see it has dendrites, right, at one end, and down here it has axon terminal. Okay, so the dendrite is connected to the cell body. So this is the cell body, right? And this is the nucleus of the cell body. Okay, so a part of that, you can see that there are small dotted here in the cell body. So this is what we call as Nissel's body. So what is the function of this Nissel body? So later we discuss. Okay, right? And then this is the nerve fiber, one of the nerve fiber here we call as axon. Yang ni kita panggil dendrites. Okay, so this is axon, and the axon is insulated with, some of the axon is insulated with myelin sheath. All right, okay, so that is myelin sheath. So next is another layer, right? Despite myelin sheath, there is another tough layer that we call as neurolemma. Neurolemma. Okay, and then the gap between the myelin sheath we call as nodes of Ranvier. Nodes of Ranvier. All right, okay. And you can see that impulse is travel from the dendrites towards the axon. Okay, right. So the detail. So neuron can be found in the brain, okay, spinal cord, and also nerves, right? The function of nervous tissue or neuron is to transmit electrical signal or impulse from sensory receptor to effectors, which control their activities. So you can see it contains of the structure. This is the structure of neuron, right? And despite neuron itself, you can see this is neurons. So despite neuron itself, there are another supporting cell, right, surrounding the neuron, right? So what are the supporting cell? We call as neuroglia. Okay, so we will touch about neuroglia later. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, cell body. Cell body, which one is cell body? So this is the cell body, right? The cell body contains nucleus and cytoplasm, and it is enclosed within a plasma membrane. So the cell body also contains nacelles with apostrophe S. Okay, nacelles granule, ni. Right? So what is the function of nacelles granule? So nacelles granule involved in synthesis of protein, ribosome, and other organelles, right? And then we have here dendrites. So this is dendrites. So dendrite is cytoplasmic processes that extend from the cell body to make synaptic connection with another neuron. So as if like up here, okay, we have another neuron that synapse to the next neuron. Okay, and then neuron also or nerve tissue have fiber, right? Nerve fiber. So nerve fiber is a long cytoplasmic extension from the cell body that transmit impulse. Okay. Okay, nerve fiber that transmit impulse away from the cell body we call as axon. And nerve fiber that transmit impulse towards cell body is called as dendrites. Okay, so nerve fiber ada dua lah, axon and also dendrites. Okay, and cytoplasm of the cell body contain large amount of ribosome. Okay, so that they can synthesize protein. Protein can be synthesized. Okay, right. Next, myelin sheath. Some nerve fiber is insulated with myelin sheath, and the interval between the myelin sheath we call as nodes of Ranvier. Okay, right. So the sheath insulates the nerve fiber, and the myelin sheath help to speed up transmission of impulse. So that is the function of myelin sheath: insulate fiber and speed up transmission of impulse. Okay. All right. And another tough elastic membrane we call as neurolemma, right? So neurolemma surround the myelin sheath, and the function of neurolemma is for protection. That's why it is located on the outermost layer that covering or surrounding the nerve fiber. Okay. All right, next. the supporting cells, okay, or we call as neuroglia. Okay, so in terms of what I call it, presence. So neuroglia is 10 times more numerous compared to neuron, and it is found in the central nervous system, okay, brain and also spinal cord. Okay. And what are the function of neuroglia? The function of neuroglia is to provide mechanical support or physical support, we say, right, to the neuron, supply nourishment to the neuron fiber, right? So nourish the neuron. Okay. Next is to involve in memory process or to store information in the form of RNA, right? And some of the neuroglia form myelin sheath. Okay, so that is the function of neuroglia. So are the 4 functions of neuroglia you have to remember. First one is that give physical support. Pegang lah, dalam kata lain pegang neuron tu. Okay, number 2, nourish, provide nutrient to the nerve fiber, provide nutrient to the dendrites, provide nutrient to the axon. Okay, and then involve in memory process and yeah, form myelin sheath. Okay. All right, so you can see here, this is neuroglia, right? So some have this kind of structure, some with this kind of structure, right? Where they have those function lah, supporting, nourishing, process memory, and produce myelin sheath. Okay. All right. Okay, so finish with nerve tissue. Okay, any question? Any question with the nerve tissue? Tak ada? Okay, so kalau tak ada, then we put aside our information or all the knowledge related to animal tissue. Okay, apa nama? Astaghfirullahaladzim. Epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, connective tissue, and nervous tissue. Okay, finish. Okay, now let's proceed and explore on the plant tissue. Okay, right. So for plant tissue, first we are going to explore meristem tissue, right? So there are 2 types of meristem tissue: apical meristem and also lateral meristem. So these 2 different meristem tissue has is located differently and they have different function. Okay, right. Okay, so this is the what is meristem tissue? Okay, so meristem are cells, right, of group of plant cells that retain ability to divide. Meaning, this particular cell are those kind of cells that actively dividing by mitosis, right? So thus it helps the plant to grow, right? So the growth is depend on the location of the meristem. If the meristem is located in the shoots and root, so it is meant for increase in terms of height. So if the meristem is located within the vascular bundle, so it helps in terms of increasing width or girth. Okay, dia makin lebar. So ada 2 jenis function of meristem. Okay. Right. Okay. So next, these are 2 major type of meristem tissue: apical meristem and also lateral meristem. So apical meristem found in shoot and also roots. Okay, and the function is to help elongation of the shoot and roots. So thus we refer it as involving in primary growth. What is primary growth? So primary growth is growth in terms of height or length. So dia bertambah daripada segi pemanjangan. Whereby lateral meristem, alright, add thickness to the woody plant. Untuk tumbuhan-tumbuhan yang berbatang, so this lateral meristem add thickness, right? Menambahkan penebalan dia. So this is what we call as secondary growth. Okay, adding thickness ataupun kita panggil sebagai girth. Okay, so that's why pokok akan makin lebar, makin lebar, makin lebar, makin lebar. Okay, right. Alright, so you can see here, this is showing you primary growth and secondary growth. Okay, nampak tak beza dia kat situ? Kalau secondary growth, you can see dia akan makin lebar. Right? Kalau primary growth, dia akan lebih kepada pemanjangan. Okay, right. Lateral meristem, right, found in vascular cambium or cord cambium, whereby apical meristem found in the shoot tip and also root. Okay, so if I were help you to put, so lateral meristem found in the cord cambium and also vascular cambium. Okay, right. Okay, so all right. So we can see here. Okay, another picture showing you the cord cambium. So lateral growth meristem. Okay, so we have here vascular cambium and cord cambium. So cord cambium akan what we call it, involve dari segi menukarkan epidermis dia, lapisan luar tu, kepada lapisan yang lebih kuat. So that is cord cambium. And vascular cambium will develop into the secondary xylem or secondary phloem. That's why you can see, nampak tak sini? This is vascular bundle. So dia ada cambium. So as the cambium divide, then you will have secondary xylem and also secondary phloem. So thus your plant will become bigger in terms of width. Okay. All right. So apical meristem. So apical meristem found in the tips of root and in the buds of shoot. And it helps or supply the plant to grow in terms of length. All right. Or we call as primary growth. So if we are focusing on roots, so for root, it will able the root to extend in the soil, right? And if we refer to the shoot, it will able to ensures that the plant can reach and expose to the sunlight, or reaching to the able to capture carbon dioxide. Okay. But for herbaceous plant ni kita panggil macam tumbuhan-tumbuhan renek, right? Ataupun tumbuhan-tumbuhan herba. Tumbuh-tumbuhan renek like kangkung. So kangkung we call as herbaceous plant or non-woody plant, tidak berbatang. So for herbaceous plant, the primary growth happen to the entire body. That's why kangkung, kalau kita nak kangkung tak akan tiba-tiba dia gemuk jadi kangkung, tak ada. Kangkung dia macam gitulah, tapi dia makin panjang. Why? Because the entire parts of kangkung, ulam raja ke, apa lagi lah, herbaceous plant, right? So they will just involve with primary growth. Okay, right. Okay, so next one is again and again. Okay, this one is explaining to you about what is primary growth. So primary growth is growth in terms of length, right? It happens in the tips of shoot and also roots. Okay, right? And you can see if we divide the what we call it, view of the plant cross section. So lapisan yang paling luar ni kita panggil dermal. So we are going to explore this kejap lagi. Okay, and then the next layer is ground tissue, and the next layer purple in color is vascular tissue. Okay, so ni tak apa, abaikan dulu. Okay, next let's focus on the second type of meristem, which is lateral meristem, or we call as cambium. Okay, tadi apical meristem. Now go to lateral meristem. So remember, lateral meristem responsible to add girth or thickness to the woody plant. So this is what I call as secondary growth. Okay, right. So there are two lateral meristem, vascular cambium and also cord cambium. Okay, vascular cambium yang mana? This one. Vascular cambium yang ini. Right? Where you have your vascular tissue ni. This is vascular cambium. And where is cord cambium? Cord cambium is here. Okay. So vascular cambium add layers of vascular tissue. That's why you will have secondary xylem and also secondary phloem. And sebab tu kalau you perasan, kalau kita bawa kereta, kita follow lori daripada belakang, kita akan nampak kan kalau lori bawa pokok tu, especially kat Pahang ni banyak, kalau kita follow lori kat belakang, kita akan nampak pokok tu punya cross section, nampak macam ada bulat tu kan yang kita panggil sebagai gegelung tahunan. So that is because of the vascular cambium, division of the vascular cambium. Okay, right. Okay, next is cord cambium. So cord cambium replace epidermis with peridome. So remember what is epidermis? The outer layer lah, that protecting the outer layer of the plant, right? But for woody plant, untuk tumbuhan-tumbuhan yang berbatang, so the epidermis will be replaced with peridome. Peridome ni apa, madam? Okay, kalau kita tengok pokok yang tua-tua, perasan tak dia punya, kita panggil bark. Okay, kuping-kuping dekat luar, bahagian luar pokok tu yang macam keras-keras, macam nak terkopak-terkopak tu, that is peridome. So peridome is thicker and tougher. So this is only found in woody plant. Kalau untuk non-woody plant macam kangkung ke apa ke, dia tak ada peridome. Dia hanya ada epidermis. Okay? Right. Alright. So this is the vascular cambium. Okay. And also where you can see the development of secondary xylem, phloem and so on. And this is the peridome. Okay. All right. Okay. Next. Okay. Hopefully you are still with me. Bukan ada dekat mana-mana. Okay. Next we go to plant tissue system. Alright. So tadi we have looked at meristem tissue. Okay. Now meristem tissue is one part. Now we go to the plant tissue system. So there are three plant tissue system: dermal tissue, ground tissue, vascular tissue. Dermal means bahagian yang lapisan paling luar, where you have the epidermis. So epidermis is part of the dermal tissue ataupun peridome for the woody plant. Kan? Alright. The second one is vascular tissue. So this is vascular tissue. Okay. Right. And next is ground tissue. Okay. So ground tissue tu kat mana, madam? Ground tissue tu ada kawasan sini dengan ada kawasan yang dekat tepi-tepi ni. Yang warna hijau-hijau tu semua ground tissue. Okay, so these are the three tissue system, and we have to know the function and the example of the dermal tissue, vascular tissue, and also ground tissue. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, I want you to focus on this picture. You have this picture in textbook, right? So those that blue in color. Okay, this is cross section of leaf. This is cross section of stem, and this is cross section of root. Okay, those that blue in color, these are dermal tissue. All right, those that are yellow in color, yellow ni apa? Yellow ni apa? Very good. Yes, ground tissue. Okay, ground tissue. And those that purple in color, okay, are the vascular tissue. All right. So you from here, you can actually see that the structure of leaf, the structure of the stem, and the structure of the root will be different. but all of them have their dermal tissue, ground tissue, and vascular tissue. But maybe nama dia kita panggil lain ataupun structure dia lain. Okay, right. Okay, so let's start first with dermal tissue. Okay. All right. So dermal tissue. So dermal tissue is the outer covering of the plant. Okay, we have discussed non-woody plant have epidermis, right? That helps to cover and protect the young parts of plant. All right. And in some other plants, epidermis also have other specialized characteristic. Selain daripada protection of young plant, cover the young plant, epidermis have other function and characteristic, iaitu example, the root hair. So root hair is basically part of the dermal tissue. So root hair is the extension of the root epidermal cell near the root tips, right? That helps to absorb water or mineral. Okay. Next one is some specialized dermal tissue is cuticle. So cuticle is a waxy epidermal coating. So it is derived from epidermis, which is part of the dermal tissue, and it is waxy material, right? That secreted by the epidermis of the leaves and also stem, which helps to retain water. That's why when we look at leaf structure, it is quite macam waxy, nampak berkilat-kilat macam tu. Macam kangkung punya batang pun kita nampak macam berkilat, right? So why? Because they are coated with this cuticle, right? Okay. And then for woody plant, we have peridome. Okay, so peridome is a protective tissue that replace epidermis in the older or woody plants. Okay. Right. Okay, so the same picture. Right. So now, okay, contoh, if I were to make what you call it, simple notes for you. So plant tissue system. Right, we have 3. Okay, the first one is dermal tissue. Right, so apa example of the dermal tissue? It is the outer covering, right? So we have epidermis. We have peridome. Okay, for woody plant. Okay, and then we have cuticle, right? And the other one is root hair. Macam tu. Alright? Okay, so that is dermal tissue. Okay, second one that we are going to discuss is vascular tissue. Okay, right? Okay, so please make this simple notes later, okay? Right, next we go to vascular tissue, okay? So which one is vascular tissue? Remember, this is dermal, okay? This is vascular. All right, okay. So vascular tissue continuous throughout the plant, and it involves in transportation of materials between roots and also shoot. And there are 2 types, xylem and also phloem. So, contoh, this is xylem. Okay, what is the function of xylem? So xylem transport water and minerals upward from the root into the shoot. All right, okay. And as for phloem, right? Phloem transport organic nutrients that is made in mature leaf via photosynthesis to the roots, okay, or to non-photosynthetic shoot system like going hantar gula-gula tu ke bagi kepada flower or going to the fruits, okay, and also store ataupun what I call it, transport the organic nutrient to the site of growth. For example, in the to the developing leaves or to the developing fruits. So this is the function of phloem, right? Okay, so okay. Next, the vascular tissue of root system, root or stem, maksudnya the vascular tissue in root and in stem we call as stele, right? Maksudnya mana kawasan yang ada, contoh macam ni, in the root. This is root, alright? Ini adalah cross section of stem. So you must be able to tengok, you tahu, oh ni root. Tengok, you tahu, oh this is stem, right? By looking at the structure and distribution of the vascular tissue. Okay, right. So let's say the vascular tissue in root or stem is called as stele. So ini kita panggil sebagai stele. Okay, kat mana tempat yang ada xylem phloem tu kita panggil sebagai stele. So the arrangement of the stele will be varied depending on the species and organ of the plant. Okay, example in angiosperm. Okay, angiosperm is flowering plant. Tumbuhan-tumbuhan yang berbunga. Okay, so for angiosperm, right, root, the what I call it, the stele or the vascular tissue is a solid central vascular cylinder. Solid central vascular cylinder. Yang mana satu? Yang ni. Nampak ni? Bentuk dia, it is solid central vascular cylinder. So the vascular tissue dia duduk dekat center. Macam tu. Alright? Okay. And for stem and also leaf, it is divided into vascular bundles that have strands of xylem and also phloem. So kalau untuk stem, so inilah dia punya stele that have xylem and also phloem. So similar to leaves. Okay, right? Okay, so now cuba tengok gambar je. Jangan tengok apa-apa tulisan kat situ. So is this root, stem or leaves? This one. Just look at the picture.
Root.
This is root because you can see this, the vascular tissue is located centrally, right? So this is what I call as the stele. Okay, right? So the star shape in the middle of the stele here is the xylem. So this is the xylem and in between here is the phloem. Okay, right. Okay, so what can we put in our simple notes over here? Okay, so for vascular tissue, it refers to the xylem and also phloem. All right, so what is the function of xylem and what is the function of phloem? You can add later on lah. All right, the function and then other specialized function of phloem, for example, and then what is the name given, right, for the vascular tissue in angiosperm. Okay, yang kita panggil sebagai stele tu, kan? Right, so tu. Okay, and the third one is ground tissue. Okay, ground tissue. All right, so okay, vascular tissue settle. Okay, now we go to ground tissue. Okay, what is ground tissue? Here. Okay, so ground tissue is neither dermal nor vascular. So dia bukan yang dermal, dia bukan yang vascular. So yang lain tu kita panggil sebagai ground tissue. Okay, so in eudicote stem, right, the ground tissue for eudicote, okay, I'm talking about eudicote right now because monocote and eudicote ground tissue will be different. Okay, so in eudicote stem, the ground tissue is divided into pith. Pith is located internal to the vascular tissue, and the second part is cortex. So pith and cortex. So for eudicote, the ground tissue is divided into pith and also cortex. So the cortex is located external to the vascular tissue. Okay, madam tak faham lah yang mana ya? Okay, tengok gambar ni. Right? So, okay, recap again. Cuticle, epidermis. This is what kind of tissue?
Dermal.
Okay, very good. Dermal. Okay, now we have phloem, xylem, cambium. So this is vascular bundle. So definitely we know this is vascular tissue, or we call as stele for eudicote. Okay, right. Now, next is the one that yang color hijau cair tu. The light green is the ground tissue. So the ground tissue for eudicote, remember we are talking now about eudicote. Okay, so the ground tissue of eudicote is divided into two, which are pith and also cortex. So which one is pith, which one is cortex? So pith is located internal to the vascular tissue. Dia duduk kawasan yang belah dalam ni. So ini kita panggil sebagai pith. Alright? Okay. And yang duduk bahagian luar ni, celah-celah ni, ini kita panggil cortex. External to the vascular tissue. Okay? Right. Another question. This picture is a cross-section of root, leaf, or stem.
Stem.
Okay, very good. So at this moment you managed to differentiate. Tengok gambar cross section tahu ni stem ke, root ke, leaf ke. Okay, alright. So this is cross section of stem, right, of eudicote. So you can see it has pith, internal to the vascular tissue, and cortex. Okay, right. Okay, satu soalan yang nak bagi. Okay, what about roots? What about roots in what I call it? Eudicote. Roots in eudicote. Do root in eudicote has teeth? Do eudicote root has teeth? Ada ke tak ada?
Ada.
I think
Huh?
no.
Ada? Tak ada. Jawapan dia tak ada. Sebab?
Sebab vascular tissue tu central dia.
Yeah, because the vascular tissue is located centrally. So, pith is not present in root of eudicote, but it do have cortex. Cortex ada, tapi pith tak ada for eudicote root. Faham eh? Right? So this is what that you have to understand the difference between the structure of eudicote, roots, leaf, and also stem. Yeah? Right. Okay, proceed. Okay. Next. All right. Next is, remember just now we are discussing about ground tissue, right? Tadi? Okay, so these are the three different types of ground tissue: parenchyma, sclerenchyma, and collenchyma. All right. So, okay, so if we need to put here, where is the notes just now? Okay, so ground tissue, right? So ada tiga, right? So sclerenchyma, okay, parenchyma, and also collenchyma. Okay, some of these tissue or cell can be found in pith, some can be found in cortex. Okay, so these are things yang kita akan tengok nanti, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So next, our class will be continue with the major type of cell. So we are going to explore the detail about parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, xylem, and phloem itself in our next class. Okay? Is it okay?
Okay, madam.
Okay, madam.